All rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Alvarez.
Present.
Councilman Cypress.
Here.
Councilman Larka.
Here.
Councilman O'Connor.
Here.
Supervisor Hay.
Here. Notation of the exit in the front and the rear. Electronic device, please put it on vibrate. First item is the executive session. I make a motion to come out of the executive session. No action was taken.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next up is a public hearing establishment of the Birch Hill Highview Water District. Make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Rod, you just want to speak briefly, I mean, to this, the purpose of the
Sorry.
public hearing, and to keep it short. I mean, unless someone has a question beforehand, he will come back up and answer a question if necessary. Just
Okay.
explain the purpose of what we have the public hearing for.
All right, for those in the Birch Hill Water District, I'm sure you're aware there's a PFAS, PFO issue, and in an effort to get money, they found that the water district itself had not been established as far as the state was concerned. It is a public water system, but the district, the lines, the properties, the parcels that are involved were not declared as far as the state was concerned. The Delaware Engineering put together what was necessary in order to get that done, and so now it can become a district, and in becoming a district, you're allowed to get the ECF money or any other kind of funding, pardon me. And so that was a step that had to be took before we get funding to go forward with resolving the PFAS, PFO issue. That's pretty much, there's not a lot, it's just mostly making a state aware that this is in fact a district and these are the parcels within it. So, are there any questions?
Now, it's all been verified. We had to go out to one property in potential where we thought it may have been in the district. We sent out the inspector and found out it is not in the district.
Right.
What happened was they have a well, and every time someone, neighbors look at, they don't have a well. It was inside the garage.
Yeah. So,
I've only seen one other well in my lifetime inside a garage, but it was inside the garage. As a matter of fact, I just had my pump, no, I was close to my garage. I don't know how they pull them when they are, but they get it done, but it was inside the garage, so that was removed. So I think there's now 23 units instead of the originally 24.
they got 24.
24.
Yeah.
And that was the number he had originally, but somehow they thought this property should have been in, but it's been researched out and it's not in the district because they had their own well.
If I could interject, the reason, one of the reasons, or a couple of reasons, why the final boundaries for the Birch Hill Highview Water District were never finalized is because first, the Public Service Commission wouldn't allow us to take over Birch Hill because it was a private water system. Finally, they were convinced to allow the transaction to occur where the estate of David Bruin conveyed that system to the town. And then the health department came along and said, well, you've got a bunch of houses up here on Highview that are all working off a common well. They should be in that district as well. So with that, and then with the outset of PFOAs, it was realized that we needed to finalize the district boundaries. That's why we're here today.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll open up for public comment. Rodney, stay close in case there's a question you have to answer.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Any public comments? Or?
And if you do come up for public comment, just make sure you go to the mic, speak into it very clearly. It's not an auction. Okay, here comes one. The auction's taking place now. Joe, I know you know what to do. Just state your name for the record.
Thank you. Joseph Castellano, 22 Highview Terrace. I'm on the Water District, and certainly we do have a lot of questions, and we appreciate you guys putting it on the agenda tonight in the public notice. But I guess what we were going to ask is, What are the next steps? What could we look forward to? We are certainly concerned with the test results that we had recently. We want to make sure the water's safe for everybody. And what can we do to move this thing along?
Well, this is the first step moving it
I
along.
know.
Yeah, this was a necessary step in order to get this going. And now Delaware, this has not stopped them from doing, they're the engineering firm. This has not stopped them from doing what they're doing. They've designed the system, and I gotta get in touch with you at some point, once this is all over. And then, that way you'll have the information to disseminate if you want. And what we're gonna do, currently, Birch Hill is also under a waiver for disinfection. Okay, so that's something we're gonna include into this new plant also. So there's a lot going on trying to get that resolved and this resolved. And Delaware's working on it. That's the best I can tell you at this point. Once they get some plans to us and it gets approved and we get the financing, then we go forward. And, this kind of just set us back a little, but they have funding. They're hoping to maintain that funding, and if that gets done, then we can go forward with our plan.
How far in advance will we know about the funding?
Well, once
Well,
this
the
gets...
funding's already been awarded. It's just a matter of
Yeah,
having
but
the
it-
district formalized
Correct,
so that we can accept the funding.
exactly. So it's not, once this happens, this all goes down tonight, I don't know. The funding's there, I don't know.
The process of reestablishing this district, or properly establishing this district. If the public hearing closes tonight, most likely on the 10th of August, we'll have a resolution, an order establishing the district. Because it's a town board initiative, it is subject to a permissive referendum, so we have to wait 30 days before it's finalized. Once that is finalized, and there's a notice from the clerk to be filed that nobody's filed a legal challenge to the establishment of the district, we can then file with the controller's office. And I would bet the controller's office will move pretty swiftly on this, since they've had probably 3 looks at it already.
Right.
Will, is the controller's office, is it really up for them to make a decision on, or it's pretty much just?
Their division of audit and control it's the process of establishing any kind of special improvement district. They have the authority to say yay or nay. And they look at a number of things, the ability of the community to pay whatever it is that's gonna cost. This is a little bit of a tight one because it's a relatively small district. And, but as I know you've been aware, the issue with the identification of these forever chemicals in the water system is something relatively new. And very quickly, the Department of Health, New York State Department of Health, has identified funding to defray the costs of that. That's where it would really be devastating to a individual homeowner. But it's an expensive district. All our districts are expensive.
But you would expect it to be more or less a formality with the controller's office?
They're just going to look at our numbers, and they're going to probably ask a bunch of questions. And how did we arrive at this? How do we arrive at that? Why is it why does it cost this much to provide annual service to the district, to the people within the district at this point? And our books are open. So
And it's the smallest district we have in town with 24 people. And originally it was 18 when Mr. Bruin gave it to the town, and we found the other 6 up on your road, and that added to it. And you have to be thankful that they came in to help you, because otherwise it'd be even higher than what you're getting now, which is very unfortunate.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Figured 2 months.
Okay.
But
Well, close.
Delaware will still be working on it as far as getting the plans together.
Okay.
so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing and leave a written comment period for 5 days.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you in the audience that came for that on the agenda. Next item will be presentation, Lake Teneda Watershed Assessment, John Tucci. And Everlake Blues, Tender Lake Advisory Board. Sir, would you like to come up and introduce yourself and give a brief presentation? Thank you for coming. Up at the mic, and then we'll roll, then we'll roll it over further for you.
John Tucci, president and founder of Everblue Lakes, hired by the town to do a watershed and lake water quality assessment for Lake Tenetta.
Okay. Yeah, you guys slide up? Thank you.
So in the interest of making sure I use everyone's time wisely,
If you just wait for the mic, 'cause for the record. Thanks, sorry.
Yeah, if you could speak in the mic, it'd be helpful. Can your
Paul,
computer
can
reach
you-
that far?
Paul, can you
Oh.
put it right on that one?
No.
Yeah. It's
Thank you.
moving.
Yes. Yeah, it's good. I want to be mindful of everyone's time. Is there a target amount of time that this is, we've provided a written report, which hopefully you've had some chance to review. Is there a target amount of time that you'd like me to spend tonight
Well,
on this?
15 is very reasonable. Hours way too long?
No.
Okay.
You can probably keep it high level. I don't know
Yep,
if we
high
need all
level.
the technical
Agreed.
stuff.
Yes. Okay. So we're on the same page.
However you feel comfortable best to get the word out to the public.
Okay, yeah. So when we look at a lake and we try to assess what condition a lake is in and what help it might need down in the future, we look at two things. First, we look at what are the nutrients or fertilizers that are entering the lake from the land surrounding the lake. That's problem number one. And problem number two is then how much fertilizer or nutrient has accumulated in the lake itself that is now on an annual basis feeding and refeeding the weeds and algae that make the lake a problem. So we are looking at this both ways. Our first step was to do a watershed assessment in the spring, and we've done 2 rounds of sampling of water quality data from in the lake and the lake sediments themselves. We'll share some of that preliminary information this evening as well. So in terms of the high level of the assessment that we did, what this page basically says is that you actually have a very well-designed stormwater handling system around the lake that ends up dumping water into the lake from 6 drains. 3 out of the 6 are ones that are have moderate impairments that really, if you have the resources to attack in the future, there are 3 that would benefit from some re-engineering and improvement, and we've got some examples of how to do that in the report. The other 3 don't affect the lake as much because they're further away from the lake. If you want to address those as well, the good news there is that the fixes for those 3 more remote drains are minor and are less costly. Overall, when we look at how to fix storm drains entering a lake, we always focus first on how can we use simple, natural, sustainable materials to implement a solution that is going to reduce the pollutants the most for the least amount of money. So I think you'll see that we're not talking about tens of thousands of dollars per drain to improve the quality of the water reaching Lake Tenetta. We're typically talking between $3,000 and maybe $10,000 at the most per drain in the examples that I'll show. So these, if you have a picture of the lake in your head, these are the 6 major input points that literally deliver water to the lake around Lake Tenetta. And we'll kind of go around the lake from 1 at the bottom left corner, and I'll just mostly hit the top 3, which are 1 and 5 for sure, and I believe number 3. So 1 down in the left corner, 2 is not so bad, 3, the next one close to the lake, is one that could be addressed, and then 5, the second to the last, is one that would be the round out the top 3.
Would you be comfortable, do you have a PowerPoint I have a PowerPoint button in the office. Do you need that?
I think we're
Okay.
fine. I can manage. So, drain number one, this is again where it's located on the lake. This is what it looks like currently. It's a culvert that drops water toward the lake in this swampy area. There is, past this picture, some vegetated area that will take some of the nutrients out, but in a heavy rain event, you're flowing a lot of a high volume of water that then pushes through this mucky area and will scour and deliver muck to the lake. So this is probably the number one drain that could be improved on the lake. When we look at how to do this, we would look at utilizing the existing culvert, creating an initial filtration and drainage basin with a check dam out of natural rock materials like you see in the bottom left picture, and then filtering that through a check dam filter material into a more thoughtfully designed rain garden or vegetated area, with the idea that in a moderate to even high storm event, all the water would end up being contained within this structure and not flow to the lake at all. It would actually go into the ground and eventually make it to the lake underground. It could be designed also to have an overflow for a heavy event, and the reason for the rain garden and the filtration structure is so that even if the water overtops this structure, it's much cleaner than what you're now flowing to the lake in the existing setup. Make sense?
Yep.
So,
What would an
Yeah.
example like that cost?
that's the higher end one. That's probably closer to 10 grand than 3.
Okay, thank you.
Our role in this could be, if you worked with us, we don't have to do this work. We can provide designs. There are some specialized materials as part of the filter system that we can provide and recommend. And we could also partner with town, your own town resources. If you've got someone who can operate a backhoe, we can work together with them so that your overall cost is less and you're not hiring us as a all the way through contractor if you can get the bulk of the heavy work done more cheaply yourselves or by a local contractor. So we can do this anyway. If you wanted to move forward, our intent here is to get you the best result to the design. We don't care who does the work.
John, quick question on the check dam filter. Is that just filtering through natural materials, or is that an actual filter that needs maintenance?
It's a low maintenance filter. It's something that might need to be replaced after multiple years, but we would actually use a material that allows water to pass through fairly easily, but becomes what's called a biofilter. So it allows beneficial bacteria and other organisms to grow on it, and as the water passes through, that's what cleans the water. And so it's relatively low maintenance. It's an engineered beaver dam, for probably the best way to think about it.
Thank you.
Doesn't attract beavers, all right? It doesn't attract beavers, right?
No, it does not. No. We just imitate them.
Oh, good.
So drain 2, not a high priority. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. It's pretty far from the lake, but I do want to show the easy fix. The best practice around any culvert that is dumping water onto land, and flowing it further down a hill, is to do what's called armoring of the culvert. So in this case, you can see how you've got a pipe, it's all overgrown, and when it rains, it's still going to take a lot of that mucky soil and flow it downstream toward the lake. If you were to dig that out and armor that culvert with a combination of small stone and large stone, then when the water flows out of the culvert with some speed, this stone structure slows it down. It will filter out some of the suspended solids, and it'll send it on its way toward the lake in a more in a less powerful flow, so the chance of erosion beyond the armored culvert is much less. Again, another, number 3, not the highest priority one. Well, no, this is down by the lake, so this is one that could use some help. Again, it's a situation where you've got a storm drain up by the road that needs some maintenance. It then runs to this pipe that's right next to the lake, which dumps its water into this swampy, leafy kind of catch area. And every time it rains, you're going to push those leaves and that highly fertile soil right into the lake. So
Is there a recommended fix for that in his
Yes.
slideshow? Okay.
I'm sorry, this would be digging this out and then armoring it. So it's the same as the prior fix, it's just this one's closer to the lake, and it's going to be a little bit harder to get a piece of equipment in there to do it. But same idea is, instead, you would dig out in front of the culvert and create that rock structure that would then filter the water better than what you have currently.
John, the storm drain itself is fairly accessible? Like we could use the vac truck like we do on our other?
This is, yes, this can be easily. And when we observed it, it's not like, well, it was overgrown around it, it could be cleaned up. It did, I believe, look like it could be pumped out. But I'm not even suggesting that you're not maintaining these. It's just that some of them may need to be maintained a little bit more frequently, because there's so many slopes around your lake. Some of them get more leaves and debris than others. And this looked like it was one of them.
More frequently, like once a year, twice a year?
I would more look at twice a year, see how that does, and then see if you maybe need to up that to 3 times a year. You obviously don't need to do it in the winter, but once in the spring, once midsummer, once fall would be very aggressive, would be kind of maximum.
Because the highway department now has a schedule, usually once a year, each one of them gets done.
2 is more typical best practice.
Okay.
So if you don't need to
We
do
got a lot.
Well, you don't have to do them all, 2, but
No,
the
no,
ones
there's only
around the
6 for
lake.
this lake, but overall throughout the entire town, we got a bunch.
Yeah. And then finally, number 5, which is the most creative, you have a good catch basin setup way up above the lake that then dumps the water through this pipe down toward the lake. But it's old and it's overgrown. It needs to be refreshed and redone. And if we were recommending how to do that the best way, we would put a little bit more engineering into it, dig it out, make it a tiny bit bigger and definitely deeper, and then turn it into a 2-cell structure. So the first half of it would be a similar filtration basin as storm drain 1 with the special filter material, the armoring of the rock on the upstream side, and the downstream side would be a rain garden structure. And on the bottom, it's not oriented the right way. You'd have to turn that 90 degrees, but that's kind of what you're looking at. That gives you a visual of the incoming is that rock structure, then there's a check dam, and then beyond that is vegetation that will clean the water that after it gets through the initial filtration.
And John, that falls within the $10,000 range?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Finally, we're going to skip 2 things I want to finish with. This is kind of more of the same, but one thing I want to say, I don't think I've seen a better large-scale water handling system above a lake than what you guys, I think you call it the Beast.
This is at the lake on Shore Drive?
Yeah, this is by Lakeview.
Yeah, way up on the hill, you can see the lake from there, and this thing can handle so much water, clean it, and it's also probably flood protection as well as lake protection, but this thing really is the beast, and that's not even just to isolate this. In general, the thoughtfulness with which the storm drains were designed around your lake is way above average of most lakes that we visit and do this analysis on. So that is a very good thing.
Well, our town is part of a watershed committee we have up in Eastern Hudson Watershed Commission. It's in Patterson.
Yep.
We go to it like 4 times a year,
Yep.
and they recommended that. I'm gonna go back and see if we can get some more money to do some of the other things you had mentioned as well.
Great.
Because they were responsible for doing that one. They did one up at our Sicalpino Park, but it's tough to maintain because weeds and that type of vegetation is overgrown up there, and it's a very small one. But this looks good, so I'll see if we can get some money from
Yeah,
there.
it looks good. I don't know how much you need to do to maintain it, but it's big enough that it's kind of its own ecosystem up there. It can handle as much water as you want, and if things grow up, fine, it's not hurting that, you know. But it does, you are clearly maintaining it, because
Yeah.
it would be growing up more than it is.
Oh, yeah.
So that's also not standard practice. A lot of times, you get money to put something like this in, and then the town doesn't follow through and do the maintenance, so.
Well, we do the maintenance because if we don't, we get fined, so we do it.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the watershed. I think I've got a couple of minutes left to meet my target. I think it'd be worth looking at the water quality data. This tells you what's going on in the lake, and I'll be fairly quick with this. We're going to have more data combined with the data that the citizens around the lake, Matt, I think you're part of this, right? The CSLAP process, state of New York. Also, are you part of it too? No. Okay. Okay. So we're going to combine the data that you're collecting twice a month through the CSLAP process with our data that we're collecting once a month. And so we'll have a lot of data on the lake to know what the state of the water quality and the sediment. We're also doing sediment analysis as part of our work to give you a more comprehensive profile of the overall lake health. These are the 3 sampling sites that we're using. Site 3 is fairly shallow, Site 2 is the deepest, and Site 1 is medium depth. So we're kind of getting a look at the lake from shallow to deepest and medium depth with the water quality data. Without getting too down in the weeds, literally, with these numbers, the highlight for your lake is that it's kind of on the edge of healthy, trending toward a lot less healthy and at more risk. So you've got a lake that is fighting off blue-green algae and the bad stuff you don't want to have in the lake kind of through June, and it's working real hard, the little engine that could, and you kind of get into July, depending on the weather pattern, and we start to see the lake not being able to keep up and handle the problems. And that's very apparent in this data where you look at total P, which is total phosphorus, the stuff that grows your grass nice and green, also turns your lake nice and green, okay? And when you see numbers, the threshold number for risk for blue-green algae, there's some debate about this, but the low end of that is 20 parts per billion. And that's the units that we're in. 20 UG per liter is the same as parts per billion. So anything over 20 means you're at risk of a blue-green algae bloom. In July, at the midpoint depth and the bottom of Site 1, you're at 85 and 111. That's basically telling me that at the time of our sampling, you had literally an underwater algae bloom happening in the lake. It was growing down there, and then I think a few days later it came to the surface, and that's what you saw, the nice green lake, right? And now lakes have, with climate conditions, affect lakes both positively and negatively, and sometimes it's hard to tell which way it goes. Sometimes when you got a lot of rain, it hurts a lake because it brings a lot more stuff into the watershed. But in a lake like yours, where you have pretty good watershed protection, these heavy rains may actually help flush the lake and help it recover a little bit. But that doesn't change the fact that your lake is very much on this knife edge of, geez, it's hanging on, we can swim in it, and then the next day it goes downhill, and I wouldn't even want to dip my toe in it. And so the decision for the community down the road is going to be, what do you want from the lake? What resources do you have to put toward the lake? And how do you find funding if you want to do something about it? The final message I'll say, and you're not unique in this, and you shouldn't feel bad about it, it's a fact of life to every lake in a developed area. In general, lakes no longer have the ability to make themselves healthier without investment and help from the community around it. We've put so much pressure on them with fertilizers from the watershed, from lawns and from septics and from all this stuff over decades and decades, that most lakes in developed areas don't have the ability to keep themselves clean without a proactive, both watershed effort and in many cases in-lake effort to reduce the fertilizers that are causing the growth. One other kind of data point we'll share is dissolved oxygen, and we'll have a report that's much more detailed than this at the end of the year, but basically oxygen is a very important indicator for a lake of both lake health and the lake's ability to clean itself over time. The target minimum of oxygen at the bottom for a lake is 4 milligrams per liter. That's ideally the minimum you need to keep fish alive all the way to the bottom and have enough oxygen at the bottom to process some of the compost that has accumulated in the bottom of the lake. In your lake, you were actually above 4. I should have it in the June sample. So your lake's fighting the good fight through June. But now in the July sample of July 19th, you can see 2 out of the 3 measurement points on the lake are below 1 milligram per liter of oxygen. And the only place near the bottom where you have over 4 is in the very shallowest, about 6 feet of depth. And even at the mid depth at site 1, you're below 4. So this is, if you've heard the term of the Mississippi, the Gulf of Mexico dead zone, where there's a zone in the Gulf of Mexico that has no oxygen, and they call it a dead zone. Well, starting in July, you're starting to develop a dead zone at the bottom of your lake. It's not, I've seen a lot worse than this. I've seen lakes run out of oxygen as soon as before Memorial Day with a big dead zone. But this is, again, another indicator that your lake is kind of in this struggle between healthy and not healthy. And so the implication of that is that I'm not here to say your lake is going to fall apart next year. I'm not here to say that your lake is dying. It's not. It's a nice lake. But if you want it better than it is today, it's going to take some effort, and it's not likely to get better on its own. That's kind of the reality of it.
Does the current weather conditions we've been having, does that affect it as well?
Yes, but it's hard to say which way. Because you've got, as I said, because you've got pretty good watershed protection around it, water is getting to your lake from those drains, but it's also getting to your lake from underground because you got all these steep hills around it. So by the time that underground water gets to the lake, it's been cleaned of a lot of the phosphorus. So that could be helping your lake in heavy rain periods. Now, when you get these weather phenomenon that we seem to be getting a lot now, where you get heavy rains followed by 90-degree days, those are very stressful on a lake because as water temperatures get above 80, the lake holds less oxygen, and blue-green algae loves heat. So the warmer the water, the more likely it is that blue-green algae will bloom in your lake.
These little projects you propose, like 6 different ones, would that help reduce the phosphorus going into the lake?
Yes.
Do you think it would have a meaningful impact?
Well, yes, it would have a meaningful impact. And this is too much of a generalization. This is an opinion, so don't take this as science. My opinion is that it would slow the lake from getting worse, but not prevent the lake from gradually getting worse, if that makes sense. I don't think it's
Yep.
going to flip the lake around and
No.
have the lake be able to get substantially healthier quickly.
So
John,
these,
I'm sorry.
these fixes would cost around like $40,000 if I cumulatively, I think if I did some rough math, is it?
Yes, but you would prioritize. I don't recommend doing all 6 at once.
Okay,
We do 1 or 2, and to the top 2, 1 or 2, see how they work, see how that, because the investments here also have to be weighed against potential investments in in-lake strategies, and, you need a strategy, and our job is going to be to bring you a strategy at the end of the year that is something that that strategy will be viable for several years before it would need to be updated. So we understand that communities need time to plan allocation of resources, and the key thing we have found is prioritization.
He answered it. I'm good. Thank you, Eric.
John, I have another question, and we've heard this before on the fertilizing. Have you worked with communities where you're successful in somehow limiting or preventing?
Ordinances if you can do an ordinance, 0. Most places around here, particularly with the east of Hudson, they may already be selling 0 phosphorus fertilizer exclusively. That's something to look at. If not, they should be. Any lawn company that people use around the lake, they can get 0 phosphorus fertilizer, and it's cheaper for them than phosphorus fertilizer. So, but a lot of times they just aren't thinking of that, and it's easier for them to just use the same thing everywhere they go. So there are ways to work on that. In general, if anyone here lives on the lake, I would almost guarantee that if you did a soil test on your lawn, the last thing it needs is phosphorus and nitrogen. It may need potassium, it may need to be, aerated or cored, it may need other things, but it's very, very doubtful that it needs phosphorus and nitrogen fertilizer. And if you really want a green lawn, if this is allowed in this area, buy a pump, put it on the lakeshore, and water your lawn with lake water. That's the best way to fertilize your lawn, and then you're going to be cleaning the water before it gets back into the lake.
John, many people, the lake's been closed for a few weeks, or days. It's open,
Days,
back
yeah,
open
back
today,
open,
right?
yeah.
My daughter uses the lake all the time. Her friends' parents keep saying they need to aerate it, put a fountain or something. Is that a valid way to solve this or help?
It is a key tool for lakes without oxygen, and we bring a particular perspective to the table, which is, and I think if you do your research and you got a B or a C in 8th grade biology, you can come to the same conclusion. Dissolved oxygen is a critical component. A lake has very little chance of getting healthier if there isn't enough oxygen in the system. But once you put oxygen into the system and it's done the right way, that's not a guarantee that you're going to eliminate the possibility of blooms, because it's not, oxygen helps the process of reducing and processing the nutrients in the lake, but it doesn't have an unlimited ability to do that. So that's why you need both a watershed strategy and an in-lake strategy that might focus on aeration, but it is unlikely that aeration is all you need to do in the lake itself. And we help you think through the possibilities of what integrated tools there are out there and how you'd put them together into a plan and what it would cost.
Okay, thank you.
And John, that's what you're testing throughout the year to then come and say, this is what I think the best tools are.
Right.
Matt and Carl, would you like to have any comment or anything?
Just
Come up to the
Come
mic,
to the mic, please.
just state your name.
So I also think, I'm Matt Perlman, Carl.
Toward the mic so they can hear you. They didn't hear your name, Matt, do it again.
Matt Froman. I live at 81 Coolidge Drive.
Thank you.
I first, I'm trying to keep it brief. But we're testing our lake community
Again,
along with.
speak into the mic and everyone can hear you.
Okay.
I know you don't want to look at me, but speak.
So our private lake community, Carl's private lake community, we are working together to work with New York State, to work with DEC to actually test similar tests to what John is doing as well. Physical tests, chemical tests. We're sampling water twice a month. Send it off to an institute up in Buffalo, and we collect data similar to what John is doing. The data is so key to this lake because it's giving us a pulse of what is happening in science at that moment. You know, we are putting, it takes a good 2 to 3 hours to process the tests, so that it's done in a very scientific method. We'll crunch the data at the end, but we're collecting the data from June through September. So we're out twice a month at the beginning of the month, end of the month. John is at the middle of the month. So, I mean, we're getting solid data for the lake. The last time this data was taken was over 10 years ago, possibly.
Easy.
So we have data. We were able to look at the data back then and see that there are areas of the lake that had little to no oxygen. And at the south end of the lake, and some of the shallower parts of the lake, the depth has decreased because it's turned into a giant compost pile. I mean, it's beautiful. It's perfect. I mean, if I could take all of that and sell it as compost, dry it and sell it as compost, it would be amazing. But it's growing plants. It's growing invasive plants that are not native to this area. It's overgrowing. So we have this giant compost heap that's in the shallow parts of the lake, and it's getting worse and worse and worse every year. So that is kind of why we figured at this point, and it's great to hear that the lake is just teetering, but we do need to do something, and we are doing something. And I think one of the things that we didn't quite touch on was community awareness. All of our storm drains, I would say 30 to maybe 50 to 60% of the people that I live with on my block, that I'm very close with, that's just a drain. That goes to the sewer, right? Seen people washing their cars, drains literally next to the lawn, while ChemLawn is literally spraying. And do you think the ChemLawn is like keeping it right on? So if there's a community awareness component that people just don't know. Marking those drains, being aware that what goes into that drain, how do we reduce the phosphorus and the nitrogen from actually getting into the drains, let alone having filters do it. We need the community to get involved. That's a lot. But these are all things that we can do, slowly implementing them and then keeping it going in a sustainable kind of fashion. So that's kind of what we're doing.
Thank you, Matt.
Does that make sense? Good.
Carl?
Thank you, Matt.
Hi, I'm Carl Levitch. I'm part of the Teneta Lake Advisory Committee, and I'm also a member of the Lake Teneta Community Heights Association, which is across the lake from the town beach. Just to piggyback off what Matt said, as far as marking drains, we did that during Earth Day this year. Every drain on Shore Drive, Lakeside Road, and Lakeview has been marked, and we've marked it with "Do Not Dump." Because it's part of the New York City watershed system. So we marked it in blue paint. We got stencils, and we marked everything.
And you did that as part of Earth Day?
We did it as part of Earth Day. Absolutely, we
Thank you.
did. Yes. Really, what we're looking for here as a community now, I think it's great that that the town took it and we hired John, and I think we really need to take John's suggestions into heart very seriously. I mean, this is the only freshwater lake we have in Brewster, and it's a big part of our summer community, our summer play. Our kids have fun there, and I think that I really don't know how this is going to work, but I think we might have to meet with the town board and see what we have available in order to do this, and have John there as as a guide, because I'm hoping that the highway department could help us out in a lot of this stuff, especially with the, the heavy equipment and stuff, and the riprap of the different rock and whatever that we would use as filters. Because I know one of the storm drains that John was talking about is on our property. We had given, you guys have the right of way, and we have 2 storm drains that lead right down on 101 Shore Drive into our community and get blasted out into the lake, and it is totally covered. And what happens, like John said too, right now, the water comes down so fast and it's not being stopped because there's so much silt and everything on top of that, and there's all phragmites now in there and everything that need to be cut down and cut back. So if we could really sit down and map out a schedule if this can be done, because I think this is what we're here for, to help guide and and to ask you guys for guidance and unfortunately money to get this stuff done.
Well, we do put something in the budget every year, which is used for the testing. We've been doing that
Yes.
now pretty much before I got here.
Yes.
The sad thing is, we never got the reports. And when
True.
the gentleman that was doing the reports left, I got a fairly large bill.
Yes.
And I won't go into the other part of it, but we need your cooperation more. And the only thing someone has asked recently is, when you have meetings, your meetings, you not forward them to the town? I think the last one, what was the last year we got?
Yeah,
You said-
honestly, we haven't taken meeting minutes. There's nobody there to take them. I mean, we sit there as the 5 members that we are, 6 members that we are, and we just hash stuff out, and and I write it down, but I've never written out anything formally as far
Now,
as
with
meeting
the current
minutes.
membership, I know we added a couple of new members from the other side of the lake, because most of them were on this side of the lake.
Yeah.
You're not, are you going to schedule meetings, or?
Well, yeah, we had a meeting last Wednesday, but unfortunately, people were on vacation, so there was 4 of us, 4 or 5 of us there. Matt, I mean, I consider Matt part of the Teneta Lake Advisory Committee, and there's also somebody else that I consider part of the committee that's not on it, is Bill Radijak, who lives on the lake at 85 Shore Drive, and he has a very, a big interest on the lake because he lives there, and he has a lot of good ideas, and I know he was there the day that John and his company came around, and he had he said a lot of good things came out of that meeting. So we just need to, I guess, meet more and find out, something really that we need to start, I think, was you need to start putting in at least the top 3 to see if we can put some type of a fix in there.
we'll
And
be
then,
looking into
and then not only to fix it though, but then we have to come back and maintain it on a regular basis. Because I know, especially we have the 2 by us, they get filled up very quickly, the storm drains with leaves and just silt from the road runoff and everything. So I mean, definitely twice a year would be great, and if three times a year would be great, especially since we're feeding into the watershed. Because I think Lake Teneta is part of the actual watershed, so it's going to go into the New York City water system as it flows down through the dam across the lake. So we're here. We're glad we have John, Matt, and we're here to, do whatever we can to help the lake.
Well, the gentleman in the highway department that actually pumps all the systems lives on your road.
Yeah, Frank Brown, yes, yes.
So we'll speak to him and see what he can do for us.
Okay.
Hey,
all right.
John, are there grants available for things like this?
Can I add
Oh.
2 caveats just to that, what you're just saying?
Yeah, just come to the mic so that it gets in the meeting recording.
2 quick things that I wanted to mention. The data that we're collecting is needed for grants if we apply for grants. So that's part of the reason we're collecting this data is for future possible grants. The other thing is we have such a precious commodity that this lake is, and we have this, you can see the beach, the town beach from across the way and how beautiful it looks now, and there's an added deck, and we've seen a lot of people there, and it's been closed for the last 12 days. So that was it.
We're aware.
John, one quick question for you. The stormwater, the drain suggestions you made, they're independent of the testing and anything we want to do in the future. So if we wanted to work on the drains now, we could?
Yes, because you can see what they are. So one of the things we try to avoid, you could spend a year testing the water during different rain events and different flow conditions from those storm drains to fully quantify the problem. You're going to end up spending more on the testing than you would to fix it with the way we go about fixing it. So our approach is, this isn't rocket science. And it's not that expensive, so when you see what we're seeing just by doing the inspection that we did, it's a pretty easy decision if you have the money to say, let's improve that.
Okay, thank you.
And John, what about the grants?
Yeah, there are different levels of grants out there for watershed, not so much for in-lake, although that is changing. Lake Mohican got $100,000 to do an aeration system, to help fund an aeration system that their state senator helped them with. I don't know exactly what pot of money that came from, but there is starting to be more money in New York State put toward the mitigation of harmful algal blooms. On the watershed side, the most prevalent program is what's called the 319 grant program, which is a federal program that delivers block money to the states, and you then go through a state application process to try to win some of that money for your projects. That's something we can talk to the council about, or to the watershed advisory group. The only problem with the 319 grant is that it is pretty formalized, so one of the requirements of that is that you have what's called a 9 points watershed plan developed, which costs money. It's more extensive than what we just did. It typically costs a few tens of thousands of dollars for a lake your size. But if you did that, and we're not specialists in that, we could help you find somebody who's good at that. If you were to spend that money and do a good job on it, you often get 2 to 3 or 4 times back in the actual grants.
Okay.
We can talk more about that. Quite frankly, for what it would cost to fix your stuff, I'm not sure it's worth that effort. And we could look for smaller grants and less formalized ones in the 319.
One more question. The gentlemen that came up, and I think you too, talked about awareness. There's a school board member here, I won't say who she is, but that we had talked about that a few years ago and seeing if this school would do like a science program and maybe create flyers or something like that. Do you have collateral that you send out, or like flyers to people in communities about how they can help keep the lake healthy?
Yeah, we do more newsletter type stuff, but we like to do stuff like this. If the school is interested in something like that, we certainly would be open to talking about how we could participate in helping to provide some training on how to do water quality sampling, how to do even drain sampling and stuff like that, and then how to produce some of the educational material that they could then distribute. We find that if that's coming from a project like that, people are more inclined to read it than if it's coming from Ever Blue Lakes.
Yeah. Okay. That'd be great. Maybe she will stop you in the hall after the meeting. Thank you.
For sure. Okay. Thank you for your presentation, John.
Yeah, thank you, John.
Okay, next on the agenda, let me get my glasses, see what's happening. Amoresco.
Tony, they were, you might not have seen, there was a late email from the attorney for Amoresco asking that their presentation be kicked to August 10th, and the resolution, or the public hearing, to be scheduled for the 24th of August.
Okay, and with that, I'm gonna have to ask, let's see, that'll be next, under work. You know what, Jamie, I had contacted Jamie about a presentation that she was gonna do for us for the commercial, let's see, which one was it? Help me out. Huh? E.E. Brewster? I'm going to make a motion to allow her to take the spot on the agenda, just a quick presentation. She'll be back in 2 weeks for the actual public hearing for that project across from the, I called the A&P, Acme? So I'm asking to waive the rules.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Jamie. We talked, and I didn't write it down. It was in my mind. Sorry. Now, this is a project going through the plan of work currently across where the old golf dome used to be. It's a mixed use of senior housing and storage space.
Sorry, just so I can zoom in on. Is that good for you guys? Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Good evening, Jamie LaJudas from Inside Engineering, Surveying and Landscape Architecture. I also have the applicant available as well, Doug Maradraco, for E. Brewster of Enclave Equities. So the project, as you mentioned, is on Route 22 in the old Golf Dome property across from the Acme the old Acme Shopping Center, Lakeview Shopping Center. It proposes senior affordable housing in the form of 2 buildings that are 3 stories each. I do have renderings of them that I will show shortly. We do have parking in the front and the back of each of those buildings, along with stormwater management practices, landscaping, lighting, and other site amenities. The other portion of the project is for self-storage in the form of 2 buildings, 2 stories each, roughly 16,200 square feet as their footprint. Those being, as I mentioned, 2 stories with a little bit of parking in the front and overhead doors in the back of the buildings, and then also facing each other. There is also stormwater management practices in front of those buildings as well. As you can see from the aerial, there are ponds on site with DEC and town-regulated wetlands, so we are limited to what we can develop and propose. So we tried to stay outside of those buffers as much as possible. We do provide mitigation plantings in the limeish green color-ish on the renderings there toward the northern end of the development. And then to the back is where our septic systems are. So we are fully septic. This is not a sewer district or anything. And we do have new wells as well.
Jamie, you may point out, maybe I wasn't paying attention, which one is the 2 are, you got the building, the storage, where are those, and where's the housing part? I think the housing
Very
is
difficult.
to the right, I don't know.
I'll try. So these are the self-storage, and these
Okay.
are the residential.
Okay.
So you will have views from 22 of the self-storage when you look into through the boulevard area, which we are able to reduce those down to single lanes each due to the need for the uses. We are in discussions with DOT and other outside agencies to get those approvals, those being the Health Department, DEC, and DEP
Okay,
as well.
thank you.
Jamie, the 2 ponds by the entrance, were those natural or were those retention ponds from the old project?
I don't know.
Okay, just
It was
curious.
always wet there.
Yeah.
They were always a pond there. It could be,
I'm not
you put fountains in it, look really, really nice.
And Jamie, in one of the iterations of this property 20 years ago, that road then connected to other stuff. If this is built, this is the end of that, that's as far as that
Correct.
road goes.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
So there are an extensive amount of wetlands on site, and I believe that road had, before the wetlands were mapped, at that point, did try and traverse through them. We are not proposing to
Okay.
traverse through wetlands at this point.
So that
or ever.
entrance would serve this, and that's the end of it?
Correct.
Okay.
Do you have a quick question? That black line behind the storage buildings, is that the property line? And are those the lot line? Are those septic fields in the back there behind those?
So that is part of the lot line adjustment. That is part of this project also. There are 2 lots associated with the parcel. We are shifting them so that the self-storage would be on its own, and then the residential would be on its own. The septic systems here are part of the residential component of the
Okay,
project.
and just another question, do they own pretty far back up that hill?
They do. So, sorry, it's really difficult. So they do own pretty far back, and this continues to climb up the hillside. So all of the septics would be through a pump system, and they are essentially, we're not touching anything in through this area here.
Does the property line in the back go pretty much to the top of the hill type thing when you're looking at it?
It goes pretty high.
Does it go beyond it though, behind, on the other side? You can't tell from the aerial?
I don't know if
Well, you know what I
it
mean,
goes to
the hill
exact
line,
height.
the line, you can see the height of the building, because on the other side is like, you can see it from Gage Road and stuff. I'm just wondering, if the property line, when you're looking at the property, when you see the trees at the top, does it go on the other side of those trees, that property? Do you know?
I don't know, and I
Okay.
can find that out.
Yeah. Okay.
So Jamie, the storage buildings would just be in that relatively small lot in the top left, and everything else goes with the residential?
Yes, so the self-storage is this portion right here.
Yeah.
About 8.6 acres, and then the remaining portion of the lot is for the residential.
Thank you.
Can any further development go behind the area proposed for development today? In other words,
Behind
behind
the
these,
septic? In through
any,
here.
well, no, you can't go up that because it's way up the hill, but
Right.
further to it, can you use any more of that land for development? Is there any proposal for that? Or is this the final?
So there is not any other proposal, as far as we are aware, up for doing any, like, in through here, you mean?
There or even
Or-
behind it?
So anywhere we're not proposing right now, we're not proposing any other site
Okay, but there is
development.
still an opportunity that something could go there.
I mean, there's always that potential, but you're in very steep slopes, and you're in, I think there's a lot of
Wetland.
tree removal, so it's not really worth it.
Okay, thank you.
We do have some views that we came up with from, more of an aerial view looking from 22 at what the buildings would look like generally. Now, keep in mind, this does not take into account any of that hillside we were just talking about. The renderer was not aware of that component.
Just make the sky green and
Yeah,
you're good there.
exactly.
Yeah.
So this is more just to give you a general feel for the spatial relationship between the self-storage units and then the residential.
Is that's all gone through the planning and architectural review board, correct?
Yes, it has.
And there's no garage doors on the front of the self-storage?
No.
Okay.
So this is the self-storage building.
It's the nicest
They've gotten
self-storage building
much nicer looking
I've ever seen.
than the old days, believe me.
You don't even know it's self-storage, really.
Yeah.
So this is the self-storage building. This is the one that you essentially see from 22 looking in, and then the other one mirrors that. So you can see in between on the sides, there are 4 overhead doors, and then the other 18 doors that we would be asking for a variance for are in the rear of the building. So none of those doors would be viewed from or visible from 22.
Now, each one of those garage doors goes to a unit itself?
It does, yes.
Approximately the size of those units?
They vary between 5x5s and 5x20s.
5 by 5?
Yeah, sometimes you just have a little bit of stuff.
Man.
You need a bigger one than that.
Jeez.
You want a 5x20?
I might have to buy the building.
Jamie or Tony, what's the ask from the town board at the next meeting? Is it?
No, next one is just a public hearing for the public to review it and we give our approval.
But what are we specifically voting on the project? What part?
Is it
So
special
this
Special
is-
permit.
This is
Special
a special permit for
Thank
the senior affordable housing and self-storage. And then this is the views of the residential buildings, the 3 stories with the different color palettes and materials that we've reviewed and gone through extensively with the planning board.
One question I have to ask, because I'm hearing some ridiculous rents being charged here in Brewster. What's the average unit there? Is it 2-bedroom?
So these are single units.
1 bedroom?
1 bedroom.
Senior, and approximately cost?
I believe they were ranging between like an 800 to a 1200.
You'll be gone in 10 seconds.
Well, it's based on, there's income qualifications,
Exactly.
right?
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's it
You
called?
wouldn't qualify.
Huh? Oh, income. I thought you were talking about age. Did you say seniors?
Seniors, yes.
Senior
55 and older.
I got one of them.
55 and older, yes.
Okay.
Did you have
We gotta wait for the age and the income.
There have been senior housing projects that have turned into not senior housing projects.
Okay.
I don't know if this is a question for Will or not, but this will not turn into, this will be a housing senior project as part of the special permit. Is that
Correct. I think if it were to try and change, we'd have to come back before your board. We'd be out of site plan approval and
Okay,
out of our special permit.
okay.
I'm good.
You actually stole my question, but all right.
What, being the senior or money?
No, not you. You're not either. If it was ever gonna try to revert to something else, so, but thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jamie.
Great.
Okay.
I do have a question. Since we are looking for a variance for the garage, the overhead doors, is that something that we would be able to get a referral from your board? I know that because it's for the special permit, if we would be able to do that potentially tonight, to simultaneously do that with the zoning board? While
Well,
we're
we can't,
going
we have to
through the
vote, it's
public
not
hearing?
official yet.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing, you're not on the agenda for
No, it
any
would have to
action.
be, we're calling for a public hearing.
Okay, I have to ask.
I know.
Fair enough.
Don't want to hold you up a little bit.
So we'll do the referral on the 10th, you're saying?
We could if Will said we can do it, we'll do it then, yes. Well, not the 10th, would be the next meeting, the public hearing, then the meeting after we would say
Well,
yes.
she's looking for the referral before or at the same time as the public hearing.
Nah,
I didn't know
generally-
if that was something
yeah,
that you would
generally
entertain.
not.
If not,
Well,
then
public hearing, let the public make comment, we'll take it into consideration, and 2 weeks later, we'll say yes or no.
fair enough.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, you're good, sorry to hold you up.
All right.
You learned a lot about lakes, and you got 2 in front of you, you should have learned something.
I did.
Okay, thank you for coming.
Absolutely. Have a great evening.
Okay, work session, Michael Levine. He's our town building inspector.
Good evening. My name's Michael Levine, I'm the town building inspector. Thank you for meeting with me tonight. I was asked to provide you with a brief update, so
Michael, can you know, for some reason, when that gentleman spoke into it, I hear him really good. I don't hear him as well over there. Can you hear him?
I think he just
He was a
naturally projected.
Boisterous guy.
Okay.
I'll try to
Kathy's
speak
got a
clearer
megaphone
for you.
inside there, but I don't use it.
So essentially, based on the volume of work right now, our department's working at capacity. As of July 18th of this year, we've accepted 1,416 applications. We've issued 688 permits, completed 153 filed record searches, and 38 rental and accessory apartment approvals. We've performed 1,258 building inspections, 274 fire and operational permit inspections. So we're already over 1,500 inspections for the year. We've issued 385 certificates, either occupancy or compliance, and 83 operational permits. Our office has also received 344 complaints and issued 474 notices of violation. The complaints and the notices of violations are far exceeding what we've ever done in the past. It seems like there are just there's a high rate of complaints being received by the office, also by the town at this point in time.
What percentage of those are from the town?
I don't have a number for that.
Rhetorical.
We've also received 239 FOIL requests. We've entered 239 electrical certifications and several hundred septic reports into our database as well. Significant new construction projects underway include multiple large-scale commercial construction projects and the 168-unit apartment complex. So between the work volume, the complaints, the NOVs, essentially there's a cause and effect. So the volume of work being done generates inquiries and contacts as a result of the work volume. So when we have somebody that is, sending in a FOIL, that FOIL may generate 4 or 5 additional contacts from realtors, attorneys, so on, regarding, let's say, a sale of a house. So the tremendous volume, again, a lot of contacts right now with residents, real estate community contractors, and numerous professionals. I'd like to say thank you to my staff. I give them tremendous credit for their ability to keep up with the high level of work, and they do so in a professional manner, so I really appreciate them. As previously reviewed with the board, I have recommended hiring a full-time zoning officer to improve our enforcement efforts and meet the current and future needs and goals of the town. Functionally, our office is utilizing a recently updated software program. It's not without its wrinkles, but it is functioning. So, one big problem we have right now, which is something that we are working on, is our current file storage just does not fit the volume of storage that we have currently. And we continue to take in more and more projects which will require storage as well. So we are currently working with the town board to address those needs, which I do appreciate the effort. Finally, building department, we continue to work cooperatively with the planning department, the town clerk, the town court, and the assessor's office, as well as we believe with the town board and town attorney. We're currently working with a new town engineer and wetland inspector, as you know, and we have recently worked with the town planner and town engineer to update our wetland ordinance. Thank you again for the opportunity to brief you this evening.
Michael, I only have, okay. Did you want to go? No. Okay. The town clerk, would you have an opportunity to give her a call about the fire alarms? It's between your department and her department, and she'd like to, we'll be talking about the budget shortly, okay? But she's gonna request that the fire alarms be taken over completely by yours, because they do part of it, you do part of it, and it really only should be in one. You're always calling up here for her to do things, and we'd like to just keep it in one department. So if you can talk to Michelle how that might work out.
May I answer that?
I guess so.
Well, I was asked to handle that.
Who?
I'm Victoria, Planning Board Secretary. I was asked to try to work out the issue that we have with Municity for the town clerk, which would allow the building department to see the alarm permits, and I am working on it.
Oh, I didn't know that, sorry.
Well, so I just wanted to say that for on Michael's behalf, because I was asked to do it.
Okay,
Right? I spoke to Michelle about it. Am I wrong? I mean,
No, you're right.
What'd you ask me for? Okay, forget what I said. Mike.
Well done.
That's really appreciated. Thank you, Michelle.
Mike, I had a few questions if you would
Absolutely.
entertain me. One is about the septics. I know we've gone back and forth about enforcing the septic and stuff, but just thinking about the Tenetta Lake thing or issue, I wonder if maybe I think we just check it when somebody submits a permit now.
So if we send out a weekly packet with the NOVs.
Yep.
And we have been issuing a lot of NOVs for the septic, code. Now, keep in mind, 98% of the properties probably have had their septic pumped. We're violating them because either they or the septic company, typically the septic company, has not submitted that report to our department, which is a requirement under the ordinance. So typically what happens is we send out the NOV, and within a week's time, they've provided us with the document, and the violation is remedied. So it's a good heads up to somebody. So we've been every time we essentially get an application in and that file is out. It's something we check, and we communicate that with the resident. Again, it's an NOV, it's not a love letter, but it does get the point across.
Thank you. And I'll follow up. I spoke to Mike Bartolotti recently. I know he was supposed to set something up so we could see what the county has, because I understand that's where most of the records go. But I'll follow up with him. He did reach out.
We did reach out to the environmental health probably 2 or 3 months ago and asked if the database that had been indicated to us would be available, and we were told there's no database. So
Okay. All right. Well, I could check with him. Another thing I had, your comments about the staff. I know department heads will be meeting about the budget soon, so I would put your asks in there, and maybe how the tab filing system, I know you're following up on that. And it was really interesting to see how you're running the office without it, but you may want to include that in your budget submission.
okay.
We had approved, I don't exactly know what it was, but we had approved some software that was going to help with getting the code into the system, or writing NOVs or something like that. It was something through ICC, like code book import.
Yes, so there's a proposal that I owe you a decision as to how many of the ICC codes we need available within Municity.
Okay. And will that affect the price that we have to reapprove that?
I believe that you approved the lowest one, which I think includes 3 to 5 books.
Okay.
So I have to verify whether that'll be adequate for our purposes.
Okay. And thank you to your staff too. I want to reiterate that. I know we reach out to them a lot. The last thing, is there any update on Brady Standard? We get so many complaints about that. I know we've been going back and forth, but do you have any update on the environmental issue that they have there?
You know, it's been a situation where they think they're done. I mean, I've gotten reports over time that everything's good, and then the DEC comes back several months later and has them out there digging up parts of the property again. So I don't know that technically it's ever going to be done.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. That's all I have.
Anyone else?
I'm good now, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
Michael, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay,
Enjoy your summer.
next item on the agenda.
It's hot out there tonight.
Where we at? Kathy Gina, Recreation Department.
Good evening, everyone. Eric, I did try to use your format, so I'm going to pass this around. It's a little holy, but
A little holy?
Not that
I
holy.
spend a lot of my day at the lake at the moment, until like
blame you.
1 o'clock. So it's having the, and pinning people down for pricing and things like that. The information is there, the pricing part is not all there. So just to give you, well, let's start with recreation first, because that's the fun part. So we're winding down on our camps right now. We have a couple left. Swimming Learn ends next Friday. We'll be having a big party. Saturday is Community Day, August 5th. We hope to see you guys all there. Enjoy the hot dogs. I make them personally. We are also completing registration for football and for cheer, which actually starts in the fall, but we do the registration now for ordering uniforms and things like that. That the school requested with our before-after care, if we could add in the pre-K component that they have added into their curriculum, and we were able to do that. So we'll be providing pre-K through 5th grade before and after care, which is they were very happy about that. August, we start setting out our flyers for the fall programs, the travel basketball for boys and girls, fall tennis, Minds in Motion, dance, pickleball. We're still working on getting some things going for that. We're also going to be looking to collaborate with North Salem Recreation Department with a laser tag league that will happen at Castle Park. We've asked them to join us, so that looks like that might be something that's very promising. We're also hoping with our recreational basketball to speak with both North Salem and Patterson and join in with them and create a league where we go to each of the three towns and actually play each other, which we thought would be kind of a neat thing. We've tried it a couple years ago, but timing didn't work as far as when their program started and ours. So we're going to hope. We left a message for Matt yesterday. I did, and I'm hoping that we can work something out this year. We got a couple of grants for our before-after care. One was $89,200, Patty, and then the second one was $37,000, and there's a third one that we're hoping to get that we're waiting on what the amount would be. It provided training for the staff. It allowed us to buy an abundance of supplies for them. It even allowed for paying for childcare for the workers if they had children that they had to put in care. It provided for that, additional education for that for the staff, and it even gave them bonuses for working through COVID and doing all those kinds of things. They were really generous, so we were very happy to be able to provide that to them.
Kathy, real quick on the
Sure.
pre-K before and after school.
Yep.
Is the pre-K for the school? I think it's like a lottery or something. To
That
get
is
in.
correct. Yeah.
But for our program, that's paid. Whoever's in it pays for it. Is that?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay.
So they would have to pay for that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Just
Thank
like when they're going to school, they still pay for this, but and they will be busing them from, I think it's St. James. Was that where they were going? I think so. So they'll be, the school will bus them to JFK. They'll provide us with a room because they get done at 2, and JFK they'll get to us by 2:30. JFK gets done at 3:30. So they'll be for an hour, with the teachers and then our staff, and then they'll join the rest of the group at 3:30.
Thank you.
And then obviously the morning is 7 to 9. It's a typical morning.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's it for the recreation part. Now for the other part, our work in progress. I wrote down some of the things that we have going on that are still work in progress. A couple of, some things have been completed. Castle Park, I'll start with the handball court. I honestly, I don't have a completion date on this. I'm waiting for Highway. They have to blacktop. They do have to add some fill in there, and then I have to have it enclosed. So Highway's really my, who I'm waiting on, and they've had some challenges of their own, so.
Yeah, Mike said pretty much by year end, it'll be
Yeah.
done this year.
Yeah, no, yes, I know it'll be done this year, I just don't have an actual, time frame yet. The center island where the Lions Pavilion is, there's a lot of rocks that are sticking up and tree stump pieces from when we cut down the trees. So mid to late October, Mike is going to go through, grind up the rocks and the any tree stump that's left, scrape the surface, put some topsoil on, and we're going to reseed it. I was hoping, if you are interested, I would love to be able to put the same fencing that we have in front of Castle Park around that one. I think it would match very nicely. I would have to look at pricing, but I haven't done that part yet. But I just,
It was almost
aesthetic,
double- it was almost double
aesthetics.
the original one, wasn't it?
Yeah, so it would probably be about right around 8,000 is my guess. I know the other one was right around
Other
4.
than the fence, everything's internal to us.
Yeah, exactly. Then we also need to line the parking lot. Highway's going to lay out the best option for getting the most spaces up there for us. One other thing at Castle Park that I did not put on there was behind the building, we had made that flat area where, it's like an open field. But where it ends over by the bike trail, it's a drop. So if someone were playing out there, their ball went through, the weeds that have now grown up, they may not necessarily know that. So we have that fencing left over from taking it down from the park. And I was thinking maybe we could put it up along that area so that it would, just provide a little safety.
So if you're looking at your old building.
Right, if you're standing,
To the left, you'd put a
Behind it.
fence.
Yeah, left and behind it.
yeah.
'Cause it really drops pretty quick.
Running parallel to the bike trail
Oh, okay.
along
Got it.
the back.
So the whole field area, all the way up to basically almost the handball court, because there's an area that's really rough there that's
Right.
going to stay, and then put a fence, and we got enough muscle to use it.
But I think we have enough fencing to actually do that. Or at least a very good portion of it. So I figured it was a good use of that fencing since we're not going to be.
Oh, I saw the fence there, right? It's
Yes,
back there.
that is
yeah.
correct, yes, yeah. So I had them save it because I figured I'd find something to use it for. So that's one thing that's not on there, that I think it would be just make things a little safer. At the beach, the snack bar platform, the little deck that's off the guard room, and then the platform in front, the steps, they need to be replaced. It's not safe. We actually had a lifeguard get injured last year, going up them. They're not up to code. They're not even. They have some steps that are like this high and some steps that are like this high. So it would be better to just kind of even everything out. That might be something for the fall or maybe even the next spring. I have not looked at pricing for that. I had forgotten about that actually, so Patty reminded me. Once I have some pricing, I'll send that to you. Scolpino.
Kathy, can I ask a quick
Sure,
question on the beach?
of course.
I'm being nitpicky.
Yeah.
The dock that goes out on the right-hand side,
Yep.
it's got like that thing. Is there any way to fix that?
Yeah, if you know somebody who can dig out the sand.
I don't.
So when we did it, we dug it out. And unfortunately, with the water changes and the storms and up and down and everything, the beach shifted a great deal this spring. When we opened it up, it was very different than it had been the year before. I actually, Highway did try, because I had to have them dig out a lot of, we lost a lot of our shallow. I don't know what happened, but it just disappeared. So
long
yeah,
as
it
it's
just,
on your radar.
we did do it when we redid it, the top, but it came back.
Okay.
So,
Fair enough.
yes, I do see that though. That's one of those work in progress type of dig
Okay.
it out, it happens again, and dig it out again. Up at Scolpino, we're looking to put athletic fencing along, on the first field, along the third base side, which is where the parking lot is. So to kind of protect some of the cars that are there, because they don't really like to park in that area.
That's the netting?
Yep, that's the netting, yeah. Very similar to what's on the other side
Yeah.
of that protects from anything going into the road. That cost is $5,000. I got prices on that. The cheapest was $5,000. We're in the process of doing the dugouts. We started the first dugout on Ebo 2 this week. We started on Monday. It's all framed. They're going to start putting the plywood on the roof, and then we'll be doing texture 111 on the outside of it. Bench, there'll be a closet in it for to get rid of those yellow boxes that are behind the dugouts that are all rusted. We'll put a closet in each of the dugouts so that they'll have space to put those in. Once we finish Ebo 2, we'll be going over to Zimmer doing those. And by then, the gentleman that has to do the concrete course for me on Ebo 1 should be ready to be able to do that. So I'm looking at getting those all finished September-ish, I'm hoping. Provided, we don't have a ton of rain. Little League would like a batting cage. We did go out and look at Scolpino. On Ebo 1, on the first base side, past the dugouts, there is enough space to put one there. I did show it to Mike because I would need him to kind of dig it out. Little League said they would put the batting cage up, if we could do the base. So I did have Mike look at it. He said it is doable. I don't know if anybody wants to go out and look at it, and I can show them where exactly we're talking about and see if you guys think it's a great idea too. Little League loves it.
What's the base gonna be?
I'm sorry?
When you say the base, what's the base?
First base side.
I know, but you said that.
Oh, the base, meaning the
Yeah.
what you build it on, so
Yeah.
like, the ground, like to dig out and put some like item 4 or something like that down.
Will there be grass there eventually, or
No.
no?
No grass.
Okay.
So between the field and Donsberg?
Yes, that's correct,
Okay,
yeah.
Where they kind of
Yes.
play around a little bit.
Yes, exactly, yep. Mhm.
Would that be like locked and used by Little League, or it'd be open and people would wander in and do whatever?
I
curious,
mean, we could
yeah.
do that either way, to be honest.
Well, if someone wants to, bat
I'm-
and play around in a small area, it's a lot easier, because in the old days, you had to go chase the ball all the time. If you have a little combined thing, and
Right.
batting practice,
Yeah.
then would you be able to use it?
Yeah.
I mean, I know the one at the school, they don't lock it, that's just netting, so people use it all the time. So, that was one. So that's Scopino, and then at Zimmer, we have a long list. So the shed did get installed last week. We're going to be dividing it in half. We'll have half, we'll give Little League half. They're very excited to have a new area to store their stuff in, so they can get a lot of it out of Markel.
And Highway assembled that, you said, or you said?
No, that's one of those sheds like we have down at the lake, or that Highway got. So it's one of those metal buildings.
Okay. Well, I
You're
thought
talking-
you said they were installing it, but.
Yeah, I showed you.
The company.
No, I saw the shed. I
Yeah.
just was curious if
The
we put that
company
together. The
installed it,
company
yeah,
installed it.
yep.
Okay.
And what was it, 9,600 for the combination?
Yeah, it was like 12,600 for the whole thing.
It was
The
3,600.
pad,
They
They
everything.
did the slab too?
Yeah.
No,
Well,
yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice looking building.
Yeah, we're happy about it. We're, still in process of thinking about a snack shed up there. Little League had wanted one. It would have,
I sent out today for bids and make it look exactly like the original. So once we get the bids back, we'll tell you what the price is. And if we want to do it, we do it.
to do something like what's the bathrooms and the garage that we have on the other side, to do something
Exactly
the same, but instead of a garage, it would be a snack shed. So at least there's continuity in what's up there.
You mean the new shed or the existing like?
No, there's gonna be a
blockish
brand new one
building?
on the third, like what's on the first base side, will look just like what's on the third base side.
The block
Right.
building?
Yeah, the block building,
Yeah,
there's two
that's right,
bathrooms
Yep.
in there.
I
and,
don't know if you meant make it look like the metal building on the
Oh, no.
block.
Oh, no, like make it look like the other bathrooms and,
We have some of the materials left over when we did the original one, I understand.
Yep.
So we're putting out the bid, we pay for the materials and what's it gonna cost for labor. We're doing that now.
that's actually been working out very
And
well.
everything goes out the bid. Anytime you
Yeah.
wanna see the bids, I got them. Tons of 'em.
The field house, again, that's still under, that's just one of those pie in the sky things that, something to think about, and we'll continue to look at pricing and options and things like that for that. The water, we're hoping to have done for the fall. All the lines are run. I do need to have the control box installed in the garage. We'll have the electrician do that. And then the sewer obviously goes with that. I know that Mike is still waiting for some special order parts for about down by the road for the connection to the road. And unfortunately, those take time to be made. So he is still waiting on that. The athletic fencing up at Zimmer is in, the one on the third base side, so to protect where the building is now, and also up on the first base side of the little field. So now people can feel a little safer on parking. We are looking at flagpoles. I don't know, maybe you guys have an idea. We were thinking maybe one and doing it, like near the corner of right field on the upper field, so that both can see it and use it, or.
Between the fields, kind of?
Yeah,
Is
up
there-
in the corner.
Yeah, up in the corner, more towards the,
Third
like
base
where the clay bin, like up
Yeah,
on
yeah,
that side,
yeah,
up
okay.
there. Up there, we were thinking both would be able to utilize it, either that or maybe do one for the big field in center field and The other one would have to probably either be in that same spot or in left field, but you really couldn't put it in center. There's too many trees there.
I'd like to go see it, but I'd say one giant flag.
That's
The-
what I.
The one that we have at the,
Yeah, I
the
told her,
triangles.
I
Right.
always say that, use that as an
That's-
example. Except I said Brady Standard, so did you, but
Yeah.
people don't know what Brady Standard is. but-
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a nice size pole and flat.
Yeah.
You can go bigger.
Yeah.
Okay,
Those
so
ones
we'll
at the
put
car
that-
dealerships.
We'll do the one, okay. The electric went out to bid, it was ordered, we're waiting for a material list from them, so that we're purchasing the materials just like we've done with all the other jobs, because we're tax exempt, so it's a savings there. We go around, we get, prices, and we go with whoever has the best pricing.
What exactly was the electric for, Kathy?
So the electric is for, we're putting electric in the shed, or outlet,
The new
light.
shed.
Yep, the new shed. Outlets at the dugouts on either side, like we have at Scolpino. Eventual, scoreboards is next on my list. I'm looking at pricing to put a scoreboard on each field, so we would have the electric for those. And then, pie in the sky, maybe lights one day. Have everything laid, but not necessarily connected, obviously.
They were given the wattages and everything for the lights, which we take similar to what we had up in Scalpino. So they'll use that as a base. Not gonna go in it yet, but at some point in time, we're gonna, $500,000, we can get that done.
The block building that we don't really use yet has electric.
Has electric in it, yep, already, yep. There's a meter there and everything.
Okay.
So, and I already told you about the dugout, so that's where we're at. Lots going on. Lots of craziness, so.
Great update. Thank you.
Thank you for the
I'm-
list. Like,
We're hoping to have most of it done this year, so, which
Is-
would be great.
Kathy, will you just keep us in the loop as these costs come in and
Oh,
everything
yeah,
like that?
absolutely, absolutely, yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is great. So
Okay.
rather than, waiting for you to have to do a full presentation, like if you could shoot this to us
Oh,
occasionally,
sure.
that would be awesome.
Yeah, no problem, yep.
And we will suggest that I do in the future, I mean, we say yes now, so, well, every time we want the money for whatever the item is, regardless, so you know, we'll put forward a resolution for whatever, it might be 2 or 3, tell you what the amount is, give okay, and then she can do it the next day.
Okay, if ever anybody's interested, they'll go up to Ebo too, because one of the dugouts is framed. Looks really cool.
Which one?
I'm excited. One of the dugouts, it's framed. It's gonna look really nice.
If you do say so yourself.
I do. I do.
I
I'm very
agree.
excited for them. So,
It took me away from work and brought me up to the field today, just
Yes.
to show me. Okay,
so,
thank
all
you.
right. Thank you.
Patsy.
Thanks, Kathy.
Thanks, Patty.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Patty.
Okay. I guess that's the end of the work session. Regular meeting, read the reading of the correspondence.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approve of the voucher list, $1,597,195.95. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Waive the reading of the budget transfers.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
4, setting meeting dates and public hearings. All meetings to be held at 1360 Route 22, Brewster, New York, at 7 p.m. unless otherwise noted. Thursday, August 10th, 23, public hearing for E.E. Brewster special use permit. And Thursday, August 24th, 2023. So moved.
Second.
Tony, could you amend that to set a public hearing for that Amoresco project on the 24th?
The 24th, public hearing. Okay, on that
Which
motion.
is the solar panels on the landfill?
Yep, got it. So I make a motion to amend to include the public hearing for solar project?
I will second that.
And are we the original seconder?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Resolution update 2023 schedule, the fee schedule is number... Okay, now therefore be resolved that the following additions and amendments to the 2023 fee schedule are hereby approved. Page 1, add administrative wetland permit, $500. Page 1, add administrative wetland permit renewal, $250. Page 6, amend activities of minor significance 78-4.h from 200 plus 500 escrow to minor wetland permit 750 plus 1,000 escrow. Page 6, add wetland reapproval fee, no substantive change, 750 plus 1,000 escrow. And page 6, add extension of approval not part of the site plan extension, 175, no escrow, and be further resolved, this resolution shall take effect immediately. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, this is not one I like, but thank you, Lori, for all your help on this one, and Will. Okay, this is the adjusting the base proportion for real property tax assessment purposes. Now therefore be resolved that the town board of the town of Southeast accepts the recommendation of the town assessor and hereby authorizes the town clerk to sign and provide to the Office of Real Property Services Form RP-6703 for the town outside village and the town-wide homestead portion containing the adjusted base proportion of 64.82243.1% and 63.985397% respectively, pursuant to real property tax law and New York State rules and regulations in form and substance as may be approved by the town attorney. So move for discussion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Lori, for those numbers. I don't know how you get them, but good for you.
I guess you're not allowed to round it all, Lori?
Okay, and next on is the supervisor's report. We're now in close to the end of July, a little past the halfway point. The budget is moving along pretty much on schedule. I don't see any major, anything at this point in time. We'll note the revenues toward the end of the year because they've, somewhat dropped. When we put the budget together last year, we tried to accommodate it the best we could, but, no one knew how much it was gonna drop this year, but it was substantial. Actually, the first check we got for mortgage tax was more than we anticipated, and the second one was probably closer than we anticipated, so we'll be ahead on that. And there's a few areas where it's a little bit above, but you're always guesstimating. Any number you come up with, you're guesstimating to the best of your ability, and so far, we're doing good.
Tony, I had the one question. I reached out to Ron. He said we're gonna get it, but the state aid, does that come like in a lump sum or something?
It comes in varying, I don't know how they do it. There's supposed to be like a time lane, like, when you was late with the budget this year, over a month? Did you, the budget?
Yeah.
State budget.
Oh, the
State
state
budget.
budget, yeah.
That affects how to trickle down, like Mike Burdick
Oh,
is
okay.
expecting money for chips and
Chips,
everything.
got it.
And he's still waiting, and he should have had it like 2 months ago. So
Okay.
it's just running behind.
So we'll get it though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because when I had Ron do this budget when I first got here, I had to break it down into 12s. Because when I was with the county, every time I got whatever I was doing, it'd be a number. Well, where should we be at this point in time? And the way this budget's written, it does tell you where you're at the point.
Right.
Now, if you look in revenues under, say, recreation, and it's basketball, well, it's not basketball season, so you might have, $200,000 of potential revenue.
Right.
And right now it says zero. Everyone gets all nervous, but hey, when the basketball season, in on September or October, November, those roll in and you match it. But the state one is just a little behind because of the budget.
Okay, yep, thank you.
Any questions? Okay, recognition of the public. Recognition of town board members. I said legislature, I'm going back.
I have no comments.
What's
Thank
coming,
you.
there's something coming, what's coming up? Oh, the community day?
Community Day on
What
the
day was
5th.
that?
Yep.
Saturday?
Yep.
August 5th.
Yep,
And
August
what
5th.
time is it, what time is it?
I don't know.
It's probably, is it noon or before?
Noonish.
Noonish?
I'd like to say 12 to 5, but.
Come watch Eric Larkin make hot dogs.
I'm not making that.
Oh, and congratulations on a successful shred day.
Yeah, Shred Day was awesome. Had a bunch of residents come out. There was a line out to Route 22 when we started, but I think it was well appreciated.
Okay, anything else?
Nope.
I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to close the meeting.
Seconded by,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all for coming.